I would like to welcome on behalf of Forcepoint and Hitachi, and I will also request everyone from Hitachi and Forcepoint team to come on stage. So if everyone can introduce themselves, it would be great. Can we get the mics, please?
Hi team, my name is Taral and I am with the Forcepoint for almost 15 years now, and I'm managing the pre-sales for the India and the SAARC. Okay.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to DSCI event, and I'm Vivek Gupta. I lead cybersecurity practice for Hitachi for India and Middle East. I'm with Hitachi for almost 10 years now, and we do almost our 43% of revenue from cybersecurity business in India. Probably I'll be covering that in my slides subsequently.
Hi everyone, my name is Sumesh and I'm taking care of cloud security in Hitachi Systems India Private Limited. Thank you.
Hi, and very good afternoon, all of you. My name is Puneet. I'm part of marketing team with Hitachi Systems India. Thank you for coming here.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And Taral, I would request you to please stay back. So I'll hand over to Taral for a quick introduction of the topics, and he would like to have some interactive discussions with you before we proceed. Okay.
Thank you, Tim. First of all, AISS mentioned that mastering with the power of AI, right? So can I know, what all generative AI applications are there in the market? How many applications are there from the generative AI? We know about ChatGPT, Bard, Copilot, those kind of applications, but do we really know that how many of the generative AI applications are there in the market, and how the coders, different people are leveraging those generative AI applications, right? So this is the biggest challenge. We don't have the visibility of the generative AI. And as AISS earlier highlighted, generative AI has two parts of it. It has a good side and it has a bad side as well. When we are talking about the good side, it can help in a lot of automation. It can do a lot of work in a way that it will enhance the user experience as well, right? It's a real-time personalization and many other things you can achieve with the generative AI. But most of the organizations are fundamentally having a challenge. How do I leverage the generative AI for my organization? Because when it has a good side, it has a bad side as well. And what the people are claiming, the analysts are claiming that by 2030, the overall GDP will be increased by 7%, global GDP will be increased by 7% because of leveraging the generative AI application. And it will contribute $7 trillion of revenue to the market, right? So this is a good side of the generative AI. But what is the flip side of the generative AI, okay? What are the risks posed by the generative AI as an application? So when we are talking about the generative AI, the first and foremost, Forrester mentioned that the generative AI can bring a lot of breaches and the fines to the organization, right? Because if the data breach is happening, you are onto the headline, right? And it has a lot of problem. Second, it will also change the overall data security portfolio, right? Earlier, if my organization is having a DLP solution in place, I am protected. I have a DLP solution, that's it. But the entire definition of the data security has been changed in last 1.5 years. Some of you must be knowing that Gartner introduced the data security framework in early 2023. This is not talking about the DLP is a reactive portion of it, and it is sitting in between somewhere. But what about the data governance? How you can get the visibility? Unless you have the visibility of the data, you can't protect the data, right? So that is something, the data governance part is the foundational part of the entire data security framework. And that is what the Gartner was talking about. Okay, so these are the major risks associated with the generative AI. And no company wanted to go, to become a headline in the newspaper due to the data breach, right? They want to leverage the AI, but at the same time, they wanted to make sure that how they can control the access of the generative AI. Okay, and that's where the new era of the data security came into the picture. What are the driving force for the new data security? First is multidimensional risk. What we are talking about here is earlier it was a on-premises perimeter kind of stuff, but now it's a cloud adoption. So multiple channels are there which can poses the risk, where you are transferring the data and you don't have the visibility. Sovereignty and the exposure risk, right? You don't have the control on the data. You really don't know where my data is, who has access to that particular data. Then the data protection, every day, huge amount of data is being created, and there is a lot of distribution of the data as well. Third is compliance. I mean, SEBI recently changed their regulatory compliance. Earlier, it was a normal compliance, I mean, how you are enforcing the security. There was a little word of the data security in that. But if you see the recent 3 major compliance regulation, one is from the SEBI, second is from the DPDPA, and third is the insurance IRDIA. All 3 are talking about you should have the understanding and the visibility of the data, point number 1. Point number 2, you should have the data, data classification in place. Third is data protection. And the fourth is continuous monitoring of the data. That is where the zero trust comes into the picture. And the fourth is data governance. Unless you have the visibility, you can't have the control on that. And that's where the DSPM comes into the picture, data security posture management. Okay? And these are the different frameworks which are, I have given here. SEBI, and second is the DPDPA. But what is the crux of both the compliance regulation? One is identification, how you understand the data. Okay, that is very critical. How you can get the visibility of the data. Second is the ownership. Who are the real stakeholder within the organization who are handling that particular data or the responsible for that particular data. Third is control. That's where the DLP comes in the picture. Earlier, the DLP was the whole and soul from the data security, but now it is only one subset of the entire data security. Fourth is securing. Within the organization, how you are making sure that who has access to what, whether it's appropriate or not. That's where the securing the data comes into the picture. And last but not least, the monitoring. How you can enforce the continuous monitoring on your data to adhere to the compliance, whatever you are following, how you are making sure that your data is within the India boundary. Let's say if you are part of the BFSI sector, insurance, or the SEBI guideline, you are following the SEBI guideline, then you need to make sure that sovereignty risk is not there. And how you will get the visibility of those kind of stuff is really critical. So ideally, when we are talking about the DSPM and leveraging the generative AI, 2 things are very critical. Who is having access to the generative AI application? Even after having a generative AI application, how we are making sure that they are not able to upload the confidential data of the organization. So these are the 2 different layers of the controls which you need from the generative AI perspective. And the second is the entire data security, where it comes with the DSPM, DLP, and the zero trust. These are the 3 different pillars of the data security. What Forcepoint is doing, how we are leveraging and controlling the generative AI application. One is from the controlling side, how we are enforcing the controls on the generative AI. We will talk about that. And the second is how we are leveraging the generative AI in our solution so that we can improve our solutions and give the better output or the ROI to our customer. So today's session is more of an entire data lifecycle management, how Forcepoint is helping in enforcing the control on the generative AI or from the data security point of view, and how we are leveraging the generative AI solution in providing the better output to our customer. So I'm handing over to AISS. AISS will take over from he will showcase how the data security, Forcepoint data security help organizations.
Okay, thanks Taral, thanks for the valuable insight. Any questions before we proceed? Anyone? Anything coming to your mind? Why so much focus on AI? Why so much focus on generative AI? Any wild guesses? Anyone, any problem statements that anyone is today facing with respect to AI or generative AI? No one is facing any problem with AI? Strange. Or no one wants to tell, because that's the other side, right? But believe me, a lot of regulatory bodies, like Taral was mentioning about, are continuously monitoring us, what we are doing, how we are protecting the data, and AI is a center point or a focal point for them as to how you are looking at controlling as well as utilizing, right? So we have to be very clear as to how we are using those technologies in our organization and who all are having the access, right? It's not bad to have a AI access, but it has to be very controlled and very due diligently make sure that only the right set of people are having the access and only right set of data can be uploaded or can be interacted with AI tools, right? So with that, I would like to take on the next slide, which talks about the full data lifecycle management of what Forcepoint is doing across these regulations, and all our solutions are aligned to this particular curve. The very first step that any of the organization or any of the regulations are today asking is, are you able to know where is your data, right? Are you able to discover your data at the right and all the points where you think in this multifold environment your data is? It could be your on-prem, it could be your cloud, and back on your endpoints as well. Because many of the organizations are saying, okay, I'll protect and go and find out what all data is there on my cloud or my data center side, but no one is focusing back onto the endpoints, right? You have a lot of sensitive data, and you have a lot of access given to those resources which are back in cloud and having a good amount of confidential data also, right? So we need to be very clear, and we should have a very technology where it can go and detect across all the channels that I have talked about, okay? Next is the classification, right? Classification back maybe 3-4 years back was only a static in nature, right? Where you were only talking about, okay, a user creates a file and he says, okay, this is my private file, this is my confidential file, this is public. But it was very I would say user oriented, right? And that's where the challenge starts, right? Because a user may not be that much intelligent to understand the criticality of that particular data that he is interacting with, right? Second, one is unintentional, second is the intentional part of it as well, right? He knows that I can classify any document as maybe a public which may have a PII information or any confidential information of the organization, and he simply tries to move the data out because you are having only a classification based policies in your environment, right? Content and context was missing. So right classification has to be done, and what we call it as a right classification, you should have an intelligence which can rightly put labels on the document which is persistent inside the document, irrespective wherever it is flowing, right? So that flow has to be maintained, and right classification labels to be implemented on the document, whether it's new document created or a historical document kept anywhere, right? So we need to have that visibility as well, and then put a contextual and a content-based controls on top of it to rightly protect the data where it should not go, right? And only to a right channel it can be flowing, and for that you can have right DFAs in place so that only the right data is moving to the right recipient and the destination channels, okay? Next is the prioritization. Anyone wants to take a guess, what does a prioritization mean? Guys, I just want that we all are awake, no one is sleeping after lunch. Sorry? That is the next. What do you mean by prioritize? Okay. Anyone else? Good point. Segregation. Who's it? What's your name? Okay. Anyone else?
Identifying which data is crucial for which business vertical and how it impacts.
Okay.
So, for example, your finance team might look at payroll data a bit more confidentially than business teams, but marketing teams would look at communication or outgoing product launches at more importance than other stuff.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, ma'am.
So once we have discovered whatever data is there in an environment and we have classified, prioritization basically means that the data which is most critical, you put in your efforts over there, which can have regulatory impact also.
Absolutely.
So that's what it is.
Can we have, Jagdish, where are you? Can we have a goodie for ma'am? That's perfect answer that we were looking at, because the right risk identification is the key, right? I may have 10 different risks, but I have to prioritize the most critical one, right? So prioritization phase, and it has many other things related to it, but I'll not dwell into that. We'll have discussion on that in more detail. Next is the protect phase. We all know, right? We have been using DLP. Anyone who is not using DLP as of now? Anyone in the room? Or your organization is not having DLP? That means everyone is using DLP, or you're not even aware? Okay. So what are the channels, right? Previously, it was only said that endpoint is the only channel through which the data is moving out, right? Or an email or a web, but that's not the case. Today, we have our data in public clouds. Today, we have our data moving into these Gen apps that we have been talking about. Now, we have custom applications on which the data is moving, right? So we need to have a solution which can protect across all channels, not only the endpoint, email, and web, which has been the traditionally known things, and definitely your enterprise SaaS apps that your people have started to consume. And then is the last thing, that is the monitor piece of it. Monitor typically means, one, starting from discovery to protect. This has to be continuous cycle, but it is more static in nature. Monitor, what we are talking about is how I can be more adaptive in nature, right? How I can continuously assess the risk that a user is posing to us, right? Basis that, can I dynamically adjust the policies in the protect phase? Yes, the answer is yes with Forcepoint, right? So we have mechanisms where, based on your activities, we'll have certain dashboards I'll show, how based on your activities, we can dynamically change all the permissions that you have. You could be a privileged person, but your activity changed right now. You tried to copy sensitive data, it got blocked, not a problem. But understanding the context, that there's an intention of leaking a data, is very crucial to predict that there could be a possible breach by this particular user or this particular asset going forward. So how we can continuously assess that contextual information is the monitoring phase that I'm referring to.
So, Ayush,
Yeah.
so when we talk about the zero trust, okay, what do you mean by that? I mean, zero trust, how you can enforce the zero trust, and on what all channels or what all areas you can enforce the zero trust? Can anyone guess? One is zero trust network access. We all know about that. Access, right? What about the other thing where you can enforce the zero trust? Yeah.
So, in terms of what NIST CSF talks about, so there are multiple tenets of zero trust, from identity, data, device, applications, infrastructure, and then governance. So almost 6 and 7 areas you can talk about when you talk about overall zero trust story. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
I guess Ashish sir wanted to say something.
I think most of the things he has already covered, but I feel the protection part also, wherever the data can go out, all the channels, whatever you mentioned.
Exactly.
If you can blocking mode, whatever the critical data, sensitive data, should be in blocking mode of if you feel that the data is from monitoring or blocking.
So generally, we all are from the security background. We are always having a fighting between the business and the security, right? How you can balance between the productivity and the security. Certain area, probably 30-40% you know that it should be blocked. It's a very private information. Certain thing you know that is publicly available, 20-30% you are allowing that. What is the in between 30 to 40%, which is a pure gray area, okay, where you need something additional to enforce the control. And that's where the continuous monitoring comes into the picture, okay. After continuously monitoring the data, user, behavior, based on that, we are generating the risk score of an individual, and we can enforce the different controls on the top of it. So it is nothing but, along with the particular policy, you are adding the little bit of context to enforce the control, or to enforce the dynamic adaptive policy on a particular user, right? And that's where Forcepoint not only provide the access-related zero trust, but we can enforce the zero trust onto the web, data, and the usage, right? So web is nothing but, open internet. Data and usage is nothing but we are continuously assessing the data and the user behavior as well, okay? And then we are enforcing the zero trust onto the environment.
Thanks, Tarun. And one more point, how important is a coaching functionality within a data protection solution? If I provide and say that I am looking at you and, or let me take an analogy, if there's CCTV camera, the chances of threat or any kind of a mischief happening in this area would reduce. Do you agree to me? Sorry? Yeah. So the coaching functionalities within a solution also makes a very critical aspect, okay? Because if I tell the user that I am continuously monitoring you, and for this particular action, you need to give me a justification as to why you are doing it, right? It will make more sense. It will educate back the customer that there is a risk to this particular data. That's why companies also looking at me with, while I am allowing it, but I am asking him to justify that you are doing this for a business reason, okay? So on to the next slide. We talked about the data lifecycle. The first two aspects is the discover and the classification phase, right? So Forcepoint DSPM, Data Security Posture Management, helps us to address to these two phases, okay? The first is a discover, and this discover could identify a data based on predefined templates, and these templates are not only specific to only to the world data. We can customize, and we have India-based data sets as well available. You can directly consume into the product directly by using the predefined policies, okay? Second is we can then categorize those data, right? Categorize based on the compliances, categorize based on the type of compliances that your organization is following. Third is the classification. So first is the identification of the data based on the templates. Second is the categorization of that particular data, and then is the labeling of that particular data, okay? After these three things are done, comes the fourth most critical aspect, that is data profile, right? I guess ma'am answered it very well, that we need to understand the data and the risk associated to it. How will you come to know it? Till the time you're not doing the profiling of the data, you'll not be able to address that particular aspect. And it addresses two aspects. One is the data as well as the asset, because risk of a data or the asset is equally important when you are looking at a holistically risk for an overall organization, right? So over there, we are able to capture the duplicate data, the raw data, redundant, outdated, and trivial. As per one of the reports, right, published early this year, in any organization, roughly around 25% of data is redundant. That means if there is a file, it is having at least 25 copies of that particular data, or vice versa, you can calculate it. So consider from two aspects. One is the cost point of view, that how much cost you are spending to save that particular data, maybe doing a backup and whatnot, right? But from a risk or a DPO perspective, it's increasing your attack surface area, right? So we need to curtail that. Over the years, we are seeing that we are keeping a particular data saying that it is very confidential in nature, but it's already obsolete. It could be a public balance sheet of a public listed company. Till the time it is not audited and put in the public forum, it's a confidential data. But post that, it's not a confidential data, right? So that obsolete data is also constituting to roughly around 32% of the entire data that any organization is today having. And it's a global data. May change based on different geolocations, but this is the global data. It's humongous, right? Amount of data that you're saving or doing a backup, the cost, and then increasing the attack surface area with respect to that, okay? Next is how fast this discovery can be, right? So Forcepoint DSPM can go across the cloud locations as well as on-prem environments, and it will provide complete visibility into your locations, the sensitivity data, it provides you complete the creation data, it talks about the last access data, and it is so fast that it can do 300 files per second, roughly around 1 million files from a single data source. So it's quite fast. Yeah. Yep.
So one thing is like this term DSPM actually coined in terms of cloud actually initially, right? But what you are saying over here is that your solution is going to do entire life cycle, including classifications, data monitoring, and governance and protection across all the data sets, whether
Yes.
it is on-premise or cloud or Gen AI or whatever the leakage channels are there. Is
Yeah.
that the fair understanding?
Yes, your understanding is correct.
Okay, and because uh, a lot of solutions, like what we are seeing is that there is a cloud native solution called CNAP. Obviously, you are aware of it. I hope a lot of, and they are whether your competitors or a lot of OEMs are bringing DSPM as a module within that. However, what we are seeing, and I think if what you are saying is like, because we have not hands-on experience on it, but I think this is where the problem industry is facing, where a single solution can do classification, protection, governance, monitoring across all the data sets. So I think that's what you are saying over here, right?
You are spot on. I mean, the point solution, most of the organizations are having a problem with the point solution today. The first and foremost, they don't have a contextual information because they are leveraging multiple solutions. How they can consolidate the data out of each and every different solution. And that's where, when we are talking about the data, the DSPM is the only solution, or any DSPM solution, who can get the visibility across all the different vectors, like on-premises, cloud, endpoints, or anywhere. So that is where the DSPM comes into the picture. The one CNAP or the CSPM kind of solution, they are majorly meant for the cloud-based approach. They are not for the on-premises solution. But if you are looking for the vendor consolidation or the centralized solution, then the DSPM is the way to go.
And just one more point I wanted to add. See, if you're looking at your cloud storages, okay, and you are trying to discover a content out of it, and you're not looking at the same data back on your on-premise or your endpoints that the users are having, it's just like that you have closed one door, but you have 3 open doors to move out, right? So we need to plug all the gaps. It's not that you have to close all the gates, but you should have a discovery points at all the locations, right? So it has variety of, I would say, data sources which are supported. Definitely, I cannot stand here and say that any data source you bring and I'll support it. It's not the case. I would be wrong, but definitely we can discuss. Sorry? Okay, that's a good question. On the next slide, I am covering that. That's a good question. Just hold on for a minute. So I am on the next slide now. So what we are leveraging, we are talking about AI, right? We are talking about continuously. So how we are utilizing it back into the product? Okay, we are using SLMs, small language models, okay, which are quite fast and very accurate. There are various other LLMs as large language models as well, but those are pretty slow. So in the modern world, you need a fast and accurate machine learning algorithms or the AIs, which can, on a speed of wire, can classify it, discover it, and protect it, right? So you need all the 3 things happening on the wire, right? So we are using AI mesh for that purpose. And to answer to your question, if you look at the form factor mentioned here, this solution can be a pure SaaS. It could be, I would say, an on-prem solution, and it could be an air-gapped. Many of our captive networks, people are asking that we don't want to expose any of our data into the on-prem, which are connected back to your cloud or maybe a complete SaaS. Can you deploy this solution as a complete air-gapped, right? A lot of government customers today are asking us, we want to deploy all your AI models back on-prem. So we have that mechanism as well. So we support all the 3 form factors, okay? Then I already talked about the SLMs. Then because of its SLM being used, it's quite fast, right? It talks about like 200 milliseconds that we are using to categorize or to look at the data itself. And it is all trainable. The most important aspect is that if I come and say, okay, this is my AI and start using it, right? It may not make sense to you, right? You may say, I want to train it based on my data sets. So we can do that for you as well, okay? Next, We are also, within our DSPM platform, we are doing data detection and response, which heavily talks about the data lineage, okay, from where the data was created, keep tracking that particular data wherever it is moving, right? So we have introduced this. This is currently in beta, but we have introduced this functionality as well. So it gives you complete visibility of data creation and tracking of the entire document wherever it is moving, okay? Next, if you go to any DSPM vendor or the CNAP vendor, right, the very first thing they will say, I will only do on the cloud, or I will only do your on-prem repository. But is that the only sufficient? Because that particular data, which is already available in cloud, can also be copied back onto the endpoints, right? And how I can go and monitor that particular data, which is residing back on my endpoint, which is also available on the cloud, but that is sensitive in nature. So I need a solution which is an endpoint based, which can go and monitor the entire endpoint and find out where that sensitive files, which I have discovered back in the cloud, are residing on the user's endpoint machine, so that I can remove those files from those particular machines. How I can take remediation actions based on that, right? Because I need to remove the confidential data, because if those are available on those datasets, what we are doing, again, the ROT, redundant copies, right? We are increasing the attack surface area. How we can reduce that is the key why we introduced endpoint discovery back into the DSPM, and we are the only vendor who is doing this currently on the agent side of it. Okay, these are a couple of screenshots back from our tool. I'll not dwell into that. Next is good question. Structured is coming. Unstructured is currently supported. Unstructured is coming early Q1, so it would be supported very soon. Yeah, yeah. Yes, sir.
So you spoke about files, right? So files may have one record and files may have multiple records, single file. And people may split that file to multiple records and keep them on a file or a separate file.
So does your solution link that set of data based on the attributes, or how's that? And second question is, your classification, is that again on the the discrete file, or is it at an attribute level?
Okay. So for first question, you said if someone is trying to send a part of a data, okay, and or maybe on a different channels, right? So at least a decade back, Forcepoint introduced a concept called as drip DLP, and we have been doing this from almost a decade or even more thorough, right? So we have been doing this, and we can detect any data moving out on different channels. It could be based on thresholds, it could be based on date and time, or maybe let's say if a first part of that particular data or the threshold has been sent today, next is being sent tomorrow on an email, third data is being uploaded on a web. I can correlate all three and give you a single incident and give you all the previous attempts or the data which has been trying to be exploited. Okay.
Data on the cloud can be split into 10 parts. Like if you have a list of candidates for recruitment, you can split it into 5 parts and store it on the endpoint. So my question is, does your solution will it tell the user that it's the same copy of the data that is being stored on the endpoint and in the cloud, even if it is split into different parts?
Yes. So one is, it will provide you the visibility of the redundant data, okay? Redundant or the splitted data, okay? The way you gave the example, it's a splitted data. We can give that visibility. Second, we are also providing the data lineage as well, okay? So that you can get the complete information about what was the data originally, how it has been splitted, and where it is stored, okay? So that kind of information we are providing. And from the protection point of view, one is drip DLP and second is the fingerprinting as well. If you have a original data which is fingerprinted, no matter whether you are sending the complete data or some portion of that partial data, we can monitor that and we can protect that.
I'm using Forcepoint DLP, so I'm getting any discount to use the DLP as well?
Where is my sales guy?
Sales guy.
So we have Nitin, who heads our region for North and East, and he also heads our complete public sector business. So he has recently joined us from Google. So Nitin, if you want to do a quick introduction, you were not there when we did an initial introduction. So
all the states, center and PSU, and some north region also, some customer north region.
Okay. We can discuss. Okay. So now next is because one of the commonly known is ChatGPT, and we are the one of the few OEMs, okay, who has done a direct integration with OpenAI, okay, where we are working that if any sensitive data, right, is getting uploaded on ChatGPT as well, we can, in near real time, we can go and discover and remediate. Right now, we are doing the discovery piece of it. Okay, we are protecting as well, but we are not remediating. That is a work in progress. Hopefully, that should also happen in a quarter's time. Okay, so we are the one of the only OEMs in this space who have integrated with OpenAI as a I would say organization level integration. Okay.
So one question, my side. You said you have a
which side?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
So you have a classification, you have a discovery. You mean to say you suppose under DPTP, if somebody comes and say that erase my data. So first of all, I should have a clear visibility where all that data point is lying. So that means discovery of it.
Yep. Complete inventory of that data. It could be personal data, it could be the PII data or anything, right?
Right. So if I want to remove that data from all my devices or my assets, will it be possible to have the support from your solution?
So we do support remediation scripts. Okay. Some of the remediation scripts are inbuilt. Some of the, if you want to take some other type of actions, maybe moving to a safe location and then doing anything else, those things can be customized as well. So that is pretty much possible.
So orchestration and the workflow is possible, very much available in the solution. Yeah.
Any question? Yeah.
So you mentioned that your tool is unique, that it can identify if anything is uploaded to ChatGPT. But that's a basic feature of a DLP, right? So what is it so special in your tool?
Okay.
See, anything I upload will be detected by DLP. So what is that special thing which you are telling that once it's uploaded, I can identify that it is getting uploaded to ChatGPT?
So two things. One is the access control on the generative AI. Okay, we have in our SSE platform, we provide the categories for the generative AI and providing the subcategories as well. Okay, so you can enforce the control like which users are allowed to access the generative AI. Point number one. Point number two, from the data point of view, I'm not sure whether generative AI, definitely, some of the generative AI can be blocked using the DLP. But there is a lot of generative AI applications which are running on HTTP3 and the more protocols, right? Which is not very easy to identify by any normal DLP solution. I'm talking about the Gemini. Just have a try on that, Gemini. I'm pretty sure you will not be able to block with the traditional DLP solution.
Okay.
Okay. So that's where the integrations are needed. And see, the idea here is how I can, and this is specific to the enterprise version of ChatGPT, right? Very first thing is who is using that ChatGPT enterprise. Getting that visibility and the access part, what Taral mentioned. Second is what prompts, what interactions we are doing, right? With that particular within that particular session. Next is which files are getting uploaded. See, if I have given an access as an organization to a particular person, I still need to monitor, right?
Yes.
So that from that perspective I was mentioning. So from a DLP will definitely look at and block in general what Taral also mentioned, but it is all about the enterprise version. If you are allowing the access, you still need to monitor, right? What uploads are happening so that there is no extra data being moved out, right? So from that perspective, yes.
But I think the question is, and I probably need a little more detail around it. So if you have a DLP solution and any file goes out of a particular channel, whatever channel, right? You earlier in traditional days, we used to talk about web channel, email channel, or whatever channel, right? Now, ChatGPT is another channel, right? And you have a DLP solution where you can enforce the policies, and then you say, okay, these files should not be allowed, whether you put a PII or a regulatory or etc. etc. So I believe, probably you can, or Taral can talk about it. I believe you are giving a little more context while what all data which may not be sensitive in a traditional manner can be also protected through this solution. I think that's what, right?
We are talking about the DLP solution.
Yeah.
It is obviously based on the content of the data.
Absolutely.
We don't want to block everything.
Yes.
I can't, configure the policy that everything should be blocked on the generative AI application. Again, as I stated, it's a balance between the security and the productivity, right? So that's where, how you can enforce the granular control.
So the problem, the question is probably is that are you creating some specific policies or bringing some specific policies for those Gen AI things?
Yes, we are bringing. We can discuss more in detail, but we have to be on time check. We have one more session as well, so just wanted to be on time check. So this is what we are covering. So we covered the first two parts. The next is the prioritization phase, what we are doing in that. So this kind of a dashboard is given back to the organizations, right, where it gives you a complete number of files which are discovered with definite sources, right. Second is number of files which are cataloged. Number of files or the most valuable asset based on the content that they are carrying. Next, quick view of all the files which are having PII information. Next is quick view of the section by type, file types. Next is understanding the type of assets which are at risk, because there could be assets which may have a lot of data and they are overexposed, right? There could be a sensitive files and that access has been given to everyone. It is shared with everyone, right? So it has a lot of risk back to it. Then this is a dashboard which talks about the overexposed data. It talks about, I would say, unprotected files. But the idea here is that how quickly we can move this number from 82 to 100, right? How can we be more aligned and more control of our data, right? So that we can improve our posture against the data scores, right? And this is a screenshot from directly I would say the risk view from the ChatGPT, as we have already integrated it, right? So you can have all the risk views, the data which is being moved on it. I have a video we can share towards the end of the session if time permits, but this kind of dashboards can also be created for OpenAI apps, okay? I'll quickly move. We have already discussed these aspects. Next, I wanted to throw some light on the analysis of the risk views that we get, okay? Now, I would like to talk about the protect phase, right? You all know about DLP, correct? But DLP, you all know from an enterprise version, which is on-prem, right? Forcepoint, almost a couple of quarters back, introduced a complete SaaS DLP, okay? Which is a Forcepoint 1 data security, and it protects all the channels. It's not only for endpoints, it's endpoint, web, email, CASB. And most importantly, it provides all the industry leading things that we had in our on-prem, or we have in our on-prem, like predefined templates, we have fast policy, we have different types of file type supports. We have all ingested back onto the cloud framework as well. So you don't need to now have those heavy FSMs and your, I would say, the SQL databases. So Forcepoint has already introduced and it's pretty much mature. We are adding some of the very advanced functionalities also on top of it, right? Like device control or risk adaptive protections based on our indicators of behavior, right? Everyone knows about indicators of compromise, right? We introduced when we came up with a solution of risk adaptive protection, which is nothing but moving left off loss, how predictively we can analyze the risk of a user and then take actions. We introduced that back onto this particular platform as well. This is a quick snapshot of how it looks like. If you look at the complete user details, what they are doing, all activities, whether it was a read option, read, write operations, device manufacturers which are connected to your assets, right? We can name I would say the OEMs of that particular devices as well. What permissions, how many endpoints are there, how many endpoints are working, how many endpoints were uninstalled. All those things keep coming from this particular dashboards, and it's all coming to you as a SaaS service, okay? Next is the monitoring phase. Now we'll dwell down into the monitoring part of it. So what happens is the incident happens, right? And then we put, I would say, a risk okay. We provide a reactive approach to it, right? And we detect and we respond, okay? Why? Because we are still looking at the indicators of compromise. How we can, instead of looking at indicators of compromise, which is threat-centric, how I can look at the behavior of a user, right? So that I can reduce the risk exposure. And these indicators could be based on for all the users, it could be for your privileged users, it could be, the licensing model is very straightforward, it could be for different set of users which are highly privileged, but if their behavior changes, right, it can create a lot of risk to the organization. So you can put for those users, how I can dynamically adjusting the policies. Right now, I am not doing anything, I am privileged, I can copy any data anywhere. Now I am doing a data stockpiling back onto my machine. My risk increases from maybe a 0 to 20, all my action starts to get audited, right? So that you can have all the visibility of all my actions, right? Next, if I'm trying to plug a USB drive, USB was blocked because we have a device control functionality also back into the solution, but there was a context which says he tried to copy this particular file, my risk moves through, let's say a 40 or a 50. Again, he attempts to send that particular email to someone. We bring a email workflow mechanism into the picture, and ultimately, if I'm doing something more malicious, I can be blocked on the fly. And this is all happening automatically within the tool. Okay, and this is nothing but risk adaptive protection. Okay, I'll quickly skip these slides. Sorry, we are late on time. So, what Forcepoint is talking about? Forcepoint is talking about the convergence. It cannot be that we have data security in silo. It has to converge with your exit channels. It has to converge on your SWG layer. It has to converge on your CASB layer or a ZTNA or a SD-WAN or a firewall layer, Zero Trust CDR and the RBI functionalities. So this needs to be converged, and that's where we are talking about data first SASE across all channels, which amalgamates AI, Zero Trust, risk adaptive, and DSPM that we have been talking about, and across all channels. So thank you. This is what I wanted to cover today. And I'll hand over and request Vivek sir to be on stage from Hitachi to share his thoughts. And once his session is completed, we may have some small quiz and a QA.
Thank you, Ash. I believe I'm in between the next session. So I'll take not more than 5-7 minutes. What I wanted to pass the messaging is what we do at Hitachi, right? And how we are partner in this journey with Forcepoint. That is the messaging which I wanted to give, and what we are doing around cybersecurity in India.
So by the time we are doing this, any questions anyone wants to ask by the time we are switching? Sorry, we had to skip few slides. We are late, and yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, my question is that while you did mention that Forcepoint.
Sorry, can we take that after?
No, I only asked, but
we have 10.
You start. You start. No, sorry, ma'am. I'll discuss to you on offline.
Thanks, Suresh. So all we know, what is happening towards the cybersecurity today is the environment is getting intensified. What we are talking about is increase in the breaches, AI escalating attack surfaces, compliance pressure, which DP23 is coming in as an act. Then the geopolitical situations across the globe is, which is intensify cybersecurity requirement and the environments. Today we have almost 250 million users who use AI, right? And by 2034, it is going to be 5 billion. Do you see that, how it is going to be an explosion of information? And, then we need to have structured, approach to make sure, all these data sets which we are posting onto these LLMs or SLMs and all those areas, probably we need to see that how we need to control, how we need to put, things on that. This is what is turbocharging. AI is turbocharging. We heard about it's a double-edged sword, right? So ransomware building was taking 12 hours. Today it is taking 3 hours. By 2025, it says it's going to take 15 minutes. And next is compliance and exfiltration of data. 9 days, which is converting into a day, and maybe 20 minutes next 2025. Then is exploit vulnerabilities. It takes generally 9 weeks, which data set says. Today it's around week. It's going to be less than 60 minutes. That is how AI is changing the landscapes and the environment for cybersecurity. We heard from Ayush what is happening today, and this is a typical enterprise, which is using AI or started using AI, and this kind of an architecture they have. What this translates is, this translates your attack surface has enormously increased, means the risk has increased. But we have the traditional way of cybersecurity, and we have the traditional solutions which are in place, today in the market, and they are not equipped enough to make sure, all these areas are going to be covered. Second is the data privacy risk. He touched upon today, we are pumping data inside out. All the users within environments are using copilots, they are using chat GPTs, everything, and traditional DLPs are not enough to, make sure all the data which is getting onto these platforms is secure, right? And this is public platforms. Then comes as the applications are also consuming this data, the enterprise application also consuming, and they are interacting with these LLMs and SLMs, right? How to make sure that side of the story is being covered. So lot of, integration is required in terms of to safeguard this set. It's not one bullet, silver bullet, which is going to fix. So here is the system integrator comes in picture, who can work with multiple OEMs and make sure, your entire environment is being safeguarded against such risks. AI, the cyber threats, reaching more targets with ease. If you talk about the solar wind thing, if solar wind has happened today after the AI, I think it would have, it was having a devastating effect into the environments of customers, right? It is moving with lightning speed. Earlier, the, attack and the exfiltration was maybe taking time. Today, it's less than 4 hours, which is almost 4.5 times less than what was happening earlier. Every day an attack is in a 0 day. It's all attacks which are self-evolving attack, or the malware which are generated by an AI. This is a 0 day attack kind of a situation for every, and it's a novel attack. It is nowhere, we don't have signatures, we don't have anything around it. And so to safeguard ourselves from these areas is becoming a question for us, right? So at Hitachi, we have 5 different verticals where we participate with 60 leading OEMs in the industry. And these 60 OEMs, we are partner, as in professional services partner with 12 of them. And we are expanding that number to further. And we are partner with the 3 leaders in each of these categories within the industry for that matter. Next is our services portfolio. Probably it's a large laundry list. We are certain panel auditor for, incident response, VAPT services stuff. We are managed SOC provider. We provide SOC services. The best piece with us is we are complementing the response also for our customers, especially for the mid-market customer who do not have in-house skill set to remediate. The MTTD has gone significantly down because of your best of the breed detection and response solutions. But when it comes to MTTR, it's still days and hours, right? With enterprises, they have gone down significantly, but with the mid-market and, SMBs, it's a question. So what we do is we have a complementing remote delivery arm, which is 180 people on 27 different cybersecurity solutions which we support. We do SOPs and SLA-based remediation for you, So you need not to go to your 3 or 4 different SIs to bring in that, RCA for that particular anomaly which has been detected. So that is what we bring on the table for our customers in India. Now I'll switch gear to the compliance, We are doing a lot of things, and this is in practice, which is in worldwide we are doing from last 16 years. We have some 30 certified resources around GDPR as a solution, but we have made it now available to India as well. We have got 2 of these guys moved out of, Europe to our facility in Pune, and we are expanding that team. So what is this on the table is this discussion started in 2017 and 2023 after president stuff, it has become an act, right? And we are eagerly waiting, maybe next 15 days we'll, get to know the final version of it, how it is going to be. I will not take, thorough this thing. So what is the DPDPA is talking about? Who does it apply to? what does I am to do and what does it protect, right? So what is in the store for us is, probably I'll be covering in the subsequent slides. This is what has happened in India. Digital India initiative with the government, everything is getting digital, right? So we have PAN cards, Aadhaar cards, we have your credit cards, we have your, UPI, we have banking accounts, everything is getting digitized. That is bringing, it's a tickling bomb. And as per the studies, what we have seen is in 2019, it was only 219 elements for the personal identifications were there, which has subsequently gone up to 1,000 as of today. And by 2025, we are talking about it's going to be 900. So our solutions available in the market are good enough to protect this data, which is PII data, or they are, somebody asked, how you correlate this data which is sitting in silos within the organization, or which is broken in, and you have to have a mechanism to see that, correlate it. So this is the biggest problem in the market, and we have handful solutions as of today which are available in the market. I'll be covering in the subsequent slide. This is something which is known to everybody from the cyberspace, so I'll skip this slide. These are the 7 data principles which we are protecting, right? This is what DPDP is all about, right? So we need to make sure these 7 principles, data principles, are going to be taken care while we start our journey for DPDP 23. And what is an ask from DPDP 23 is, these are the 7 things which are being asked, and with our partner Forcepoint, we cover maybe 3 of them. But we have an ecosystem developed within India where we have another partners engaged in, and we bring a full platform to our customers with 7 these modules. These 7 modules are the modules which complete the entire framework for DPDP 23 to be adhered into India. And this technology in the back end, we are using ML, then we are using deep learning and a generative AI engine also as a platform. So which we bring in, the lead time to do data classification or, privacy impact thing subsequently down. What we have seen is large organizations who are into practice for this is talking about 6 months, 7 months of a time for impact assessment, which we bring down to 1.5 month kind of a, thing with using our platform. So having said that, these entire thing is stitched in one platform as one deliverable from Hitachi. We have virtual DPO organization also. If the organizations are not looking for hiring a full-time DPO function, we can give you a virtual DPO as a function, So that is something which is there, which can be an hourly approach within a year or so, which we will take care of all the compliances, statutory requirements, depending upon the industry you guys are in. And then we have the third layer, which is going to be, the layer which is going to be the sustenance of these platforms. So we have already developed a team of 17 members in India who are well aware of this platform, who can be there to, do a sustenance for this particular solution for you. This was my last slide. Sorry we kept you waiting. It's already 3:22. Any questions to me, or probably we'll have common questions with Forcepoint team as well.
And in the meanwhile, I'll just look at Jagdish to be on stage because we have something exciting coming up. Yeah, ma'am. Please proceed.
No problem at all. I'll make it very quick. So my question is to the Forcepoint team. Basically, he mentioned that as of now, we are not covering the structured data. What about the semi-structured data? Is it being covered right now?
Semi-structured data, you can convert that into the CSV Excel file, and then we can protect that data, both from the DSPM point of view as well as from the DLP point of view, both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Any other question?
Hitachi and Forcepoint are like, what is the scope of each other's? You both are presenting your point. I mean, like, how are you in terms of the product? Your combined partnership
so
is.
We are partner in this journey from last 2 decades, I believe. More than 2 decade old relationship within Hitachi and Forcepoint, and we are the professional services partner for Forcepoint in India. And what happens is, as I said, there are 7 different modules are there when it comes to DPDP, right? If specifically if we'll talk about DPDP, if we are talking about only data privacy, then we are covering entire set of things with Forcepoint. But when it comes to DPDP, deployment framework, maybe consent management is not there with Forcepoint today, right? Data eradication is not there with Forcepoint today. Probably these are the areas which we have got plug-in from other vendors, and we will be a one-shop solution which we are bringing in a couple of vendors together and delivering it as a service to our customers.
Got it.
Hope I have justified it. Yeah.
So now guys, what if?
Kahoot?
Yeah. So we will have an interesting quiz. So I'll request all of you to take out your phones and log into kahoot.it. Kahoot.it. It is now getting projected as well, and then you can enter this game pin or you can scan the QR code. And please write your full name.
Hope no malware embedded in this QR. But everybody is doing that.
Puneet, you will not be allowed to answer. No.
51, 52, 54. कोई बात नहीं, मैसेजिंग देना था.
May we request you to please put in your full names, not like the RD or something.
We are partner in
And
that.
you are under risk of losing it if there is somebody who's raising a question on your short name. So please put in your full names.
Yeah, because I see one Puneet here.
Exactly.
We have AB@ZS. Guys, full name please.
It's ZS Pharma, I think.
Okay.
Right, we have 74 participants, 76. Yeah, we'll wait for a minute.
Anyone facing problem? Everyone is logged in?
Yep.
So, Jagdish, would you like to explain the rules?
Sure. So I'm sure most of you would know, would have played already a Kahoot quiz. So you will have a series of questions coming in and answers displayed there, and you will have subsequent colors that you need to choose on your phone for the right answer. So you will have 4 different colors, 4 different options for every question, and you need to choose only the subsequent, the relevant color on your screen to match the right answer. So we'll start now. Yeah, it's time bound. It's like the fastest finger first. So let's start. 84 participants, that's great. Start.
साइड हो जाता है लोगों कोई कह दे क्वेश्चन ही नहीं दिखा.
Yep, here's the first question, multi-select, which means you can select multiple answers. What are the types of risk analysis provided by Forcepoint DRA, which is data risk assessment?
DRA की एक ही लाइन बोली थी मैंने.
Just make sure that you answer all the questions. That's the key. Okay, and remember what has happened in the session. So these are all cheat sheet from the session. Wow.
Okay, great. That's right. Yep. So how many we have? Okay, so let's move to the next question. Before that, okay, Umesh is leading. Wow. And not much of difference between all the top 5 players. Which all channels Forcepoint SAS DLP covers?
Easiest one.
Time up. All the above. Yep. The easiest one. Let's see the results. Okay, great. Umesh continues to lead. Moving to the next question. What does GPT stand for? Generative pre-trained transformers in red, generative processive transformers in blue, generative progressive transformers in yellow, and none of these in green. 5 seconds left. Time up. 29 of you have answered it right. Great. Okay. Things change in matter of seconds. Let's move to the next question. As a part of the information protection lifecycle management, Forcepoint DSPM, which is data security posture management, covers what and all?
मेरा नाम स्पीकर में डाला ऐसे
5 seconds.
You breathe this now, so you can talk anytime.
Right, 42 right answers. It is discover, classify, and prioritize. Let's see the answer results. Anil is leading. AB at ZS. Would have loved to have that name there, but still okay.
Anil and Amy, that's a competition between you two right now.
Yep.
And others, you can still come up.
Now, which is the most effective method for automated discovery and classification of sensitive data in Forcepoint DSPM? I have deliberately given 10 more seconds for this question.
तो क्वेश्चन ऊपर इतना इमेज इतनी नीचे
5 seconds
डाल दी बंदा ऊपर नीचे यही करता रहे
65 right answers. Awesome. I'm sure you paid attention.
कौन सा
Okay.
Anil, you are going back, come on.
Let's move to the next one. Which aspect of data management does Forcepoint DSPM primarily address? Five seconds. Wow, 70 answers, right answers. I'm glad. AB is still leading, with Anil trailing marginally behind.
Come on, others, you can buck up still. We have
The last question. Which of the following best describes the primary purpose of Forcepoint DSPM? Again, you have 30 seconds this time. First one you gave, second one I'll let Vivek undo, and third one. Yeah. No, we have
done 60.
Okay, 65 right answers. Now the final result.
Any guesses?
Yep. Any guesses or?
Any guesses who has won that? Anyone? AB or Anil? How many for AB? Is he happy hands, please? How many for Anil? Only Anil. No, they are.
Let's find out. Let's find out. Number 3 position, Nishan Jalani. Well done. Yes. We'll call. Anuj second and Anil Badani first. Well done. So, may I have Nishan Jalani on stage, please? Give it. Thank you. Anuj Gade, please. You can. Anil, as promised, the remarkable paper made 2. So can I have all the 3 winners on stage for a group photo, please? All the 3 winners. Yeah, all the 3. Yes.
Can I request the other team members of Hitachi and Forcepoint also be on stage, please? Come. Puneet, you also join.
Abhishek, you can go there.
Jagdish. Yeah, come. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thanks. I hope the session was knowledgeable, and we are around. You can ask any questions offline to us. Entire team is here, so we would be outside because we have to hand over for the next session as well. So
and please
thank
collect
you,
your goodies from Team Bhavana. Can you please? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.